Hello, and welcome to Everyone's an Expert. I'm Brian, and this was a week of a lot of experts. Um, Reading new comments and getting the same old questions, but some of that's great, and uh, it kind of comes with the territory. Um, Sometimes it's a little hard to stay positive when you get the same questions over and over again and answer in a constructive way instead of snapping and saying, "Oh, you're the first one who ever thought of that." But um, but that's not why we're here tonight. We're here to talk EV stuff and some interesting things that cropped up this week. And I just want to start by saying that uh, I had a long day of shooting some stuff today. Um, I'm continuing testing Smart Summon, where it is right now, and my friend Todd was very helpful this afternoon, helping me kind of spot the car, make sure we didn't hit any major obstructions or anything like that. But so that video is probably going to be coming next week. Tomorrow's video is going to be kind of look at some of the basics. Although, I'm making fun of some people commenting the kind of obvious stuff, as far as, like, where's the electricity come from, and, things like that. Um, there are also really genuine questions that people have that kind of get glossed over. And there are things even that I thought I knew. And then when I'm looking at the comment, I'm thinking, it's about this or about that, but I'm not quite sure. So tomorrow's video is going to be kind of going over some of the basics of the Model Y. I had a good question about ground clearance, and Todd, again, today was really helpful with, he has a Model S and is currently driving it, so then I let him drive the Model Y. And one of the questions I got recently was, how's the ride quality between the two vehicles? And he and his wife and I all feel it's pretty comparable. Now, maybe the brand new refreshed X's will have, or S's will have a little better ride, dampening or whatever, but they both seem to think that the ride in the Model Y is pretty good. A little higher center of gravity, obviously, than the S, but still pretty planted to the road. So it was good to get that feedback and that check-in from them. Now that I'm a few weeks away from driving the S, I can't say it's really faded, but it's not as fresh in my memory as it was a few weeks ago. So, and even the Model Y, I got a chance to get used to it all over again. This week, I took it in to get some paint protection film, and I took it in Monday morning, and we picked it back up on Friday afternoon. And when I dropped it off, I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying the Y, but I don't know if I have the connection to it or miss it as much as I do the S. And boy, by the time really Wednesday afternoon came around, I was like, okay, I want my car back. And then Friday, when I finally was able to drive it, leaving the place that did the paint protection, I was like, oh, this feels so good. It's so good to be back in the Tesla. I was driving our 2008 Prius, which is a fine vehicle for what it is and for when it came out. It was a technological masterpiece, but now it's a little long in the tooth. We just passed 215,000 miles on it, and it feels like it. It feels like 2008 technology. So hopping in the Model Y was very refreshing and enjoyable, and yeah, so very happy to have it back. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the paint protection process. But for now, I'm going to wait until after 2 weeks. They want me to come back and they're going to do kind of the first wash. We'll go over if there's any peeling, any bubbling, anything like that. And, kind of see if there's any last minute tweaks before they send me on my way into the great wide world. So that will be in a couple weeks, and then I might have a video on that afterward. But so far, the car's covered. I can rest a little easier knowing rock chips and things are not going to be damaging the car. So that's a great feeling. Having it back is a great feeling as well. There are a couple people in the chat I see here. So hi Todd, hi Swag. Yeah, Todd is saying just a little higher feel of the Model Y. So, and always fun to get other people's impressions and to get Todd's impression of the where Summon is right now. And I think we both can have a pretty similar opinion of that. And the video that'll be coming out next week will be kind of a benchmark of where it is now, and we can kind of test that against where it is after this next software update, maybe in April, comes out. We'll see, kind of where Summon has progressed. Smart Summon has progressed. Speaking of next week, I will be out of town on our first Model Y family road trip. I don't really count the range test to Iowa and back a road trip. I mean, technically it was almost 500 miles and I was on the road all day, but that's a test. This is load the family up, pack it full of gear, drive, do the potty breaks, the diaper changes, I need to stop one extra time, all that kind of stuff that happens when you're traveling with the family. So I'm really looking forward to that. We aren't going too far, just from the Minneapolis area over to Wisconsin Dells, and staying in a cabin there for the weekend, and driving back then on the Sunday. So probably won't be a live stream next week because I will be there, but I'll definitely be filming the trip. I've already looked on a better route planner, and it's an insanely short stop, one charging stop from here to Wisconsin Dells. I might overcharge there so we have some extra driving range when we're at the cabin, but we'll see. There might be a 110 outlet on the cabin, which case I would use that too. So kind of looking forward to that. I'm intentionally not looking too much. I'm not looking up too much online about the cabin because I kind of want to have it be a surprise, whatever I find there, and deal with that. So we'll see. That might be a really foolish thing to do, but it should make a good video. If I really screw myself, then it should be a pretty good video. Hey Tom, how's it going? Good to see you. So one of the things both Todd and I noticed this morning, and it comes on the heels of something my wife and I were talking about yesterday, as I was looking through the YouTube analytics of the last few videos about the Model Y have done really well. So if you're new watching this, thanks a lot for checking out the channel, and thanks a lot for watching those and sharing them around if you know other people who are interested. I really appreciate it. But one of the things I really noticed when I went into the analytics is the audience is now we're making progress. It's now 94% male and it's 96% male and 4% female. So that kind of got me thinking. I noticed this yesterday, and I got to thinking about how, why that is the EV revolution that's happening just a bunch of husbands forcing this on their wives? Or I know there are some great female YouTube channels about Teslas and EVs, and I follow a handful of those, and that came out like Binders of Women, which is throwback. But anyway, so I know in the Minnesota Tesla owners group and the EV owners group, there are a lot of very active and passionate women in those communities. And so it might just be my channel that's getting, an all-male audience. And I can understand why women wouldn't want to look at this. Makes total sense to me. I have a hard enough time editing this stuff. But, so I was thinking about maybe doing something with my wife hosting a panel or something like that. And if that sounds like something that would be interesting, talking to some other female either EV owners or potential EV owners, and just kind of talking through some of the things and why maybe the topic seems a little standoffish. And maybe that's not the case, but I'm hoping something like that will teach me something, and maybe teach all of us a little, something about how we talk about EVs and make it seem a little more accessible to everyone instead of just guy talk. So I'm hoping to do something like that relatively soon. And again, if you think that would be interesting or valuable, let me know so I can, put a little extra encouragement into making that happen. So, but as that was on our minds yesterday, then I think it was Clean Technica had an article, and both Todd and I ended up talking about this while we were doing the summon tests. Is Todd? Did I say Todd? Now that Tom's in here too, it's a TO toss-up. But anyway, Todd and I were talking about that article that came out, and the gist of that article was it does seem like there aren't a lot of female YouTube channels talking about EVs or, Tesla. I can't remember if it was Tesla specific or if it was just EVs. And I can't remember the gal's name, but the author of the article was referencing this YouTuber, Carter. I'm forgetting her last name. Todd, if you remember, if you could post that in the chat, that would be great. But I watched the video they referenced. It was very good. It was her test drive of a Model Y. And so good to get that perspective and opinion. And if you're looking at a Model Y, checking out her channel, and it would be a great resource. So just something I was kind of thinking about, and it all kind of snowballed one day after another. And so interesting. Todd and I both saw that article this morning, both watched the video, and as we were sitting in the car, we're like, who was that? Who was that? And both looked at it and found it at the same time. Excuse me. Another question I got that was really good, it may have even been on last week's live stream, was if Tesla's going to do the structural battery pack. There it is. Carter Jones is the gal's name. So maybe go check that out. And if that's a presentation style you like, or you find her information helpful, then go ahead and subscribe to her channel and see what she has next. Excuse me a second. And we're back. So, as I was saying, the last week, I think on the live stream comments, somebody said, can you please talk about Tesla's structural battery pack and explain to me why that isn't just planned obsolescence? And I'm sure everybody watching now knows, but if you don't, basically what that is you build in failures to devices so that you have to buy a new one after a certain point. Think your cell phone battery dying over time, or your computer just bricking 3 years after you bought it. So the concern is, if Tesla's going to build the battery pack as part of the structure, then there's no way you can really service it. Like, I guess you could technically in a modern Model S or 3 or Y and X, you could take the battery pack out and replace it. And I had a few thoughts on that, and if you have any others, feel free to add them in the comments. My first thought, which is what I responded with, was that if the batteries can go 1,000,000 miles, and Tesla knows that, then by the time that vehicle, the shell of the vehicle, has gone 1,000,000 miles, there's not going to be much shell left. And you can replace seats after a while, you can replace the screen, you can replace the battery management system, any of the other parts that might wear out over the course of 1,000,000 miles. But chances are, by the time that battery hits the point where it's dead, there's not going to be much left of that vehicle anyway, and it's probably going to be at the point where you would just be recycling the whole vehicle altogether. And my guess is Tesla has enough data from the current packs that are out there to know either that will be the case and continue to be the case as battery technology advances. Now, you might get a rare pack that goes bad or something, and that might scrap, the whole car, which would be unfortunate. But if it's one car, I mean, how many cars did they just deliver? 185,000 in this quarter. And I can't remember the last time I heard anybody talking about having a complete battery failure in their vehicle. But even if it does happen one or two times, it's unfortunate. But again, if you can recycle that, it probably isn't worth the extra weight hit and complexity hit on all the other vehicles that don't have issues to plan for that happening in one or two vehicles, if that makes any sense. And like I said, they probably have enough data on the current battery packs to know how unlikely that is, and you're probably way more likely to have an accident, especially there's still us humans driving, which will be the case for the foreseeable future. As long as you have that situation, there are going to be accidents, there are going to be floods, there are going to be house fires, there are going to be other reasons why those vehicles would need to be taken back and recycled as a whole. With the battery would be included in that in the current vehicle lineup. So I don't think it's a way of trying to cheat customers long term. I think they're thinking that this thing's just going to be so worn out by the time the battery is worn out, it really won't make sense to keep that vehicle on the road. That's my opinion. Tom says, what is the drop-off of battery max capacity for that 1 million miles? Okay. Diminishing returns at X miles or Y miles. Yeah. So I think, I can't remember what the current warranty is. I think the current warranty is you'll have at least 80% of your capacity. Is it 8 years or 10 years? I can't remember what it is, but I would guess that's improving with time. And obviously we just got our vehicle, so there really isn't any degradation on it yet. And even our 2015S, although it couldn't, I mean, maybe in the best case weather scenarios, it could have got the 265 it was rated for. That had about 120,000 miles on it when we traded it in, and was still really capable. Didn't charge as fast as the newer vehicles, but I rarely had an occasion where it was a problem or I had to, be put out of my way to make another charging stop. But that will be an interesting thing to chart. But I think Tesla's also banking on ramping up their recycling to a point where getting those vehicles back by the time they degrade is going to be, there's going to be a value of getting those materials back. And by the time they degrade to the point where they aren't, meeting the needs of the customer, I would think there would still be some decent buyback value for that. I had another thought on that, but I saw a comment pop up. Yeah, it will be interesting because the structural batteries won't, like the old Nissan Leaf batteries, they were kind of garbage, but they were able to use like Second Life uses, like battery storage for, I know there's a big soccer stadium in Europe that has just tons of solar and then tons of old Leaf batteries. And the solar charges those Leaf batteries, and they don't have enough power or capacity to still run a vehicle, but for easily monitored loads like that, they're still really useful for, another 20 years of life doing that. And that probably won't be the case with the structural batteries, but my guess is they're pretty confident in the chemistry being able to hold up. And especially in the new form factor with the 4680s, they seem to be really confident in the manufacturing of those being pretty stable for a long time. Greetings from Canada. You're welcome for the videos. Thank you for watching. Hisham, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. I don't. If anybody has any other comments or thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. Someone pop up. I'm working off two screens, so the comments are coming in a little late here. Sorry about that. Yeah, no problem on the answer. There are a lot of companies working on different ways of recycling. Um, the Now You Know channel just had an interview with a couple people from a company that basically they deep freeze the batteries so they can just shred them in a shredder. And because they're so cold, they don't react. As the parts are ground up, they don't explode or catch fire. And then once they're ground and separated, there's my trackpad. Glad I could bring that into the shot. Um, because they're ground when they're cold, and then you can separate the material out, there really isn't any reaction, and it's apparently far less energy intense to do that than there's another way, and I don't know if it's melting. There's a hot process and then this cold process that they were interviewing about. And the hot process obviously takes a lot of energy to heat it up, and I don't know if it's melting or if there's some separation and then heating, or what the how that process goes. But I think that's the avenue that Redwood Materials is going down. And I wish I can't remember the name of this other company, but after the stream's over, I'll put a link in the description to the video interview from Now You Know, and I'll put Carter Jones's channel in there too if you want to check that out. So Redwood, I think right now is kind of going after a hot process. Ooh, that's a hot process. And I don't know what Tesla talked a lot about recycling, but they didn't specify what their process was. But they already have a lot of recycling in the factory, because as batteries are produced, there's a certain amount of waste, there's a certain amount of material that's trimmed off, and things like that. And all that, as all that stuff drops, or comes off the assembly line, then it's cycled back to the beginning. And I know that's a big part of the new dry electrode process they're working on. So it'll be interesting to see what the solutions are. One thing I found super interesting in an article I saw, or an interview I saw last year, I can't remember who it was. It was a European company doing battery recycling, and they were saying one of the problems they have is there just isn't enough, there aren't enough batteries coming off the line to really make it super profitable yet, because the joke in the EV naysayers, the refrain you hear a lot is, you got to replace the battery in 2 or 3 years, or if they're being generous, after 8 years you got to replace the battery. And there are Model S's out there with probably well over 500,000 miles on them now, and most people, it would take quite a few years to get to 500,000 miles. And so, obviously, as Volkswagen, Ford, and now GM is kind of ramping up, and Tesla, they're making more and more and more EVs, but the old ones are still running. So there's only so many that have wrecked, or some of those old Leaf batteries like I was talking about are starting to come off the line. But I don't think there's enough to make scale recycling super profitable yet. But there's a lot of people kind of angling or getting their ducks in a row. So when that flood starts happening, they can retrieve that cobalt, they can retrieve that lithium, nickel, and manganese, and get that back out to battery manufacturers. The chat's popping, so I'm going to check that quick. Did I try Open Pilot? I'm in Burnsville, Minnesota, John. Hello to you in Osseo. I wish I knew right where Osseo was. That's one of those names that I hear a lot, and I couldn't point to Osseo on a map. I feel like it's a relatively nearby suburb, but I thought that about Roseau too. Ford dealership from Roseau was involved in the Clean Cars Minnesota, made a comment on the rulemaking, and it was really great. He had a really great statement, and obviously he's a car dealer, so he knows what he's talking about. And I thought it was a close by suburb, so I'm like, well, I want to test drive the Mach-E, so I'll go to his dealership. And then I looked at where Roseau is on a map. I was like, oh, that's like a day trip up there and a day trip back. I'd still like to do it, but it's not the quick skip across town like I thought it was. But it's one of those names you hear and you just kind of assume it's nearby. Performance Model Y, excellent. Hey, Tyler. Maple Grove. Rogers, Maple Grove, fantastic. Excel Energy gives me a charge point charger. Unlimited charging 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. and on weekends. Yeah, that's similar to the process or the program we have on Dakota Electric down here. They didn't provide the charger, but we did have a rebate on the installation of our NEMA 1450 plug. Hisham, I'm sorry, I don't understand what the Open Pilot Cama. Oh, I think I know what this is. This is the Open Pilot it's like autopilot that you can plug into other cars, where it can do some of the steering, and I can't remember. I think you plug something into the data port that they do like troubleshooting. I can't think of the name of that right now, but I think you plug something in there, and that kind of tells it what the controls are, and then there might be a camera or something you have to affix to the windshield. I can't remember. I know like 6 months ago, or maybe it was a year ago now, I saw a couple videos on that, and the question was, is Open Pilot better than autopilot? And it was kind of like, it does some things well and other things not as well, and but you can put this in almost any modern car. So it was cool. I haven't tried it, but the demonstrations of it I've seen were really, impressive, especially that you can put it in, something like our old Prius, and then you'd have, lane keeping and adaptive cruise control and stuff like that. So it seems like a cool system. I just don't have any experience with it. Full autopilot, that's That's fantastic. I'm hoping that that big update we're supposed to get in hopefully April, we might see the button, the magical, mythical button, and find out what the real capabilities of FSD are. That's another part of the reason I wanted to do that summon video, is that comparison. Go fully loaded. We got we did get full autopilot FSD, and we were able to get the service center was able to give it to us for our reserved price. We had a rear wheel drive reserved, and then when it looked like they weren't going to make that version, we said, well, we'll switch to all-wheel drive if we can keep our FSD price, and they were able to do that for us. I've heard it hasn't worked out for other people, so I don't know what the parameters are on that. Maybe we just skated under the wire or something, but yeah, so we ended up getting FSD for $6,000, which was fantastic. I don't know if I could justify getting it for 10. At least right now. We'll see what that update brings. But if that update comes at the same time as the subscription, depending on what the terms for the subscription are, it might be worth waiting and doing that rather than 10 grand. But again, we got to see what the features are and have some real people trying them on. I mean, real people are testing it now, but Elon keeps talking about this step change in technology, so we will see. Should I get? Yeah, all-wheel drive probably is a better option. I have heard though that several people have told me that even if you get the rear-wheel drive, if you put winter tires on it, it's going to be great. In the past, I've always avoided winter tires, and so all-wheel drive on our S came in really handy. It was a tank in the snow. I probably, drove it a little too hard in the snow at times, especially without winter tires. But it was the best car by far that we'd ever had, even without winter tires, as far as performance in the winter. And I'm hoping that's going to be the case for the Y, but I think we probably will spring for some winter tires just because, again, we're hoping to have this vehicle for 10, 12, 15 years, so giving it every shot possible to reach that limit is going to be important. Sorry if you guys can hear that. Our heater just kicked on because suddenly it's winter again. I don't know if I'm a celebrity in the neighborhood with younger kids. They obviously know who we are. Maybe in the summer I'll crank up the ice cream truck music, or maybe that's a little creepy to do in your own neighborhood. I don't know. Maybe I'll have my wife do it and film it. Somehow that seems, well, if I'm filming it, is it less creepy? I don't know. But if we can have neighborhood gatherings again, it would be great to kind of show it off and play some of the different fart sounds and things like that you can play through the speakers, or just to have a little fun with the neighbors there. It'll be interesting to see how the glass roof handles in the summer. I have heard some people complain about it. In the S, it wasn't that bad, but really, the thing with the S, and I have noticed this with the Y already, when the sun's beating on it and you have the flush door handles, or in the S they were chrome, man, it's like grabbing a furnace in the summer, grabbing that door handle. That's the case with any car. Although I think the chrome on the Model S is really, it was like you're grabbing the sun. But as far as the heat coming through the glass, I know there are sunshades you can get to kind of stick up there. Can't remember if that's Jada that has that or if it's Tasmanian. But one of the kind of Tesla aftermarket places has that, if that's a problem. I don't know. I'm kind of a person who would much rather be hot than cold. And I don't remember in the S, even on really hot summer days, it being too uncomfortable. Now the glass on the Y is bigger, or there's more open surface area of glass. But I think it's also been 5 years of technology since then. So right now I don't plan on getting a sunshade or anything, but obviously if it's bothering me or my wife's complaining about it, then that'd be something we could pick up pretty easily. Yes, definitely the snow cone stand. If we do the Tom, as you know, but for those that don't, I got like a really intense snow cone maker a few years ago, and one of the uses, other than bringing it to work and having snow cones at work, because why wouldn't you do that, was for our neighborhood get-together. And so we did that in 2019. It was a huge hit. Everybody loved it. And then, obviously, things were canceled last year. And so it's just kind of been sitting in my house, sadly, not making snow cones. Although my wife occasionally does dig it out and makes a snow cone. But I just can't get into the spirit of it unless we can get people together for snow cones. Maybe at our next Tesla meetup or something I could do that. I wonder if you could power it through the 12-volt outlet in the back of the Y. Now there's a test I need to do. Definitely. But that would be cool to be playing the ice cream music at the neighborhood thing and be making snow cones out of the back of the car. I think I've found my calling. Some people just find their calling, like Mark Ornstein knows how to paddle the hell out of a boat. I can make snow cones. I believe that was the guy's name. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I wonder if those new Model Ys if they didn't need to put the speaker in for the first batch until they hit a certain number, or what the reasoning on that was. I thought that was strange that the Ys weren't rolling off with the speaker, but mine does have it. Ceramic tint on the front windows. Yeah, I'll have to look at that once it gets warmer. Yeah, I don't know if Tesla can tint the front windows. Maybe with a ceramic they could. But I wonder if from a manufacturer, if they aren't allowed to add anything to the front windows, even though like you legally can in some places, add different amounts of tint to different windows. Ornstein is right. Fantastic. Yeah, everybody loves snow cones. I can, like, I spend, when I go to the state fair, and my wife loves the state fair, so we go often. Obviously didn't last year, but like most of the money I spend is on snow cones, because I will walk from one snow cone stand and go to, till I finish that one. 10 or 15 minutes pass, we're passing another snow cone stand. Oh, it's time to get another snow cone. So, probably not healthy. Hey, Tom, if you have a link to that video, feel free to throw that in the chat for everyone's enjoyment. Because that is just a thing of beauty, as you know. And if anybody watches this video, please scroll through the comments and read them. I have never laughed as hard as I have at some of the comments on this video. Totally not Eevee related. I guess it's green because he's paddling a canoe, but anyway, it's just good fun. So after this stream is over, check out the canoe stream. It's also Yuri's night, which I didn't realize when I scheduled this. So I know people like Everyday Astronaut and Simone Gertz and a bunch of people are doing streams for Yuri's night tonight. So this was going to be relatively short so people could get to that, but it's kind of going on, which is fine with me. Excuse me, hopefully that muted. Model Y price, I think, did go up a little bit. I'm not sure what's currently on the website. It's one of those things like you watch every day until you get yours, and then it's like, oh yeah, I think there was a change. I still try to follow that stuff, and I think some of the prices did go up on different vehicles, but I'm not sure what they are, and I'm not familiar with the differences with Canadian pricing. I know there is there's a 93 mile Model 3 that they have to sell to meet some tax criteria there to lower the base price of the vehicle. I don't know that anyone's ever gonna take delivery of that, but hopefully it helps some people afford the other ones. Oh, the snow cone stand by the stadium at the state fair. That's a good one. There's another one. I can't remember what the intersection is, but yeah, there's a few. There are some that are better than others, which is a weird thing about snow cones. But when you're a connoisseur, you know these things. I could walk right to it. I just couldn't tell you what the intersection is. Oh, it did go up a little bit. Okay. Okay, thanks, Tom. Plaid Plus price is up. It's now 153,000. Yeah, that's going to be expensive, but it's going to be insane. Completely out of my wheelhouse, but whenever someone gets one and brings it either to the drag strip or the track or just a regular meetup, I will be there to check it out. No matter what else is going on in my life, I want to check that vehicle out. Even the new regular Plaids, but the Plaid Plus for certain. Same thing with the Roadster and the Semi. There's just And Cybertruck, come to think of it. I have no use for the Cybertruck, and I'm not sure how I even feel about the design of it, but I sure want to see it in person. Yeah, Elon wants some of the stimulus money. Yeah, they probably do. I think I was watching Tesla Daily the other day, and like the day after that happened, the price increases happened, and he was talking about how it might be a reaction to the commodity prices have been rising. So, like last year, there were a lot of price cuts, but commodity prices went down, and now it's ramping up, and these price hikes might be in relation to that. Um, so another thing I wanted to touch on today, um, and I'm not trying to ignore you guys in the comments, but another thing I wanted to touch on was I kind of want to apologize for the ads in front of my videos. I'm not at 1,000 subscribers yet, and had the amount of watch time you need, but those timed out after a year, and so now I'm still building that back. I'm hoping to get there, but as I was kind of working toward that again, I was like, the ads on YouTube are so annoying, and especially it seems some videos or some channels, it's like a minute of video, 30 seconds of commercial, a minute of video, 30, and that's super frustrating. And I know I could get like YouTube, I can't remember what they call it, Todd has it, but I kind of like YouTube being a free platform, but we are paying by watching tons of ads. So I was thinking, as I kind of near those goals, do I even monetize the channel and have force people to watch these ads? And I was really on the fence about it. And about that time, as I was thinking about this, YouTube made the announcement that they were going to start putting ads in front of all videos. And even when I look at some of my videos now, I'm seeing ads. So I apologize about that, that you're seeing stuff for, that used to not have commercials, but now does. But I guess it makes my decision a little easier, because if YouTube's going to put the videos or the commercials there anyway, I may as well monetize and, get a little piece of that, since they're getting, some free content out of me. Although it can be argued if that's quality content for sure, but they're getting something at least. Let's see. Plaid and Plaid Plus require a new tire and rim. Yeah, the ads. There's nothing I can do about it right now. If YouTube's going to put them on there when I'm not monetized, then yeah. Hopefully someday I get a piece of that. And YouTube Premium. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you don't see ads. Yeah, I know some people make millions of dollars off of YouTube. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. If I do, I'd be looking at the Plaid Plus, or I wouldn't be remodeling my bathroom that had a leak on my own. I'd be paying someone to do it. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad you don't mind that you have to see those. Another thing, if anybody has any suggestions for um, for the our first Model Y family road trip. It's just to Wisconsin Dells. It's not super far, but if you have any suggestions or things you want me to test out while we're doing that, let me know either in the chat here and comments afterward. Let me know, and I'll try to make sure I hit all those topics. I've been kind of planning with a better route planner, and I'll compare that to what the car says, and then also compare it to what a better route planner would have said had we been taking the older Model S. So I think that's going to be kind of a fun comparison for me to do for a little while, is see how much time I'm saving with the longer range and faster charging of the Model Y. Like I said, I don't know what the situation's going to be in the cabin, so might be doing 120 volt charging, might be doing some destination charging if there's things around town, but we'll see. And I might not even need it. I might be able to get from the charger, do our stuff over the weekend, and get back to the charger with plenty. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. Couple other new vehicle things that popped up was the announcement of the Silverado, which seemed pretty light on details. I didn't watch the official stuff, but I've just kind of heard rumblings, and I think I saw some of the, I don't know if it was a real vehicle or a render, because it's really hard to tell now. But they say 400 miles. That should be good. People love their Silverados, so we'll see how that goes and when it's going to come out, and if the specs it has when it comes out really can compare with Rivian, Cybertruck, and the F-150. The Hummer is going to be super expensive, and I'm guessing the Silverado is going to be geared more toward contractors and things like that, like it is now. But yeah, the more the merrier. Get truck people driving electric would be fantastic, and save fleets money and things like that. And then the Kia EV6. Again, I didn't watch the whole presentation on everything about it, but something struck me as they were showing. Again, I think it was kind of renderings of like what it looked like under a sheet, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool, really super sporty. And then they took it off, and from the headlights up, it looks really super sporty. And then it looks like platform shoes down to the bottom. I mean, it's still stylized, but there's so many, and I would put the Mach-E and the Model Y kind of in this category too, of as they're making these crossovers that are supposed to be, kind of cool, not quite SUVs, not station wagons, but kind of cool crossovers. They're basically lifting sedans by a chunk, and so the top is stylized really cool, and maybe the bottom line is cool too, and then there's just kind of this spacer area, and the Kia, I think, really suffers from that, and really the Model Y, it looks like somebody did that to a Model 3. The Model 3 is really low and lean looking, and I love the Model Y, but it does have that kind of platform shoe look to it a little bit. Now, I think it can be done well, and I think as you're driving around other cars, these will all look great. But it's just kind of when they're sitting on their own from the right or wrong angle. Sometimes they look a little like, whoop, kind of like a a muffin or a biscuit or something. I just thought that was funny. And the Kia EV6 looks like it's going to be fantastic. And, Kia and Hyundai make really good EVs. Despite I think they're having a couple recalls, but they've always been really efficient. And the EV6 looks like it's going to be great when it comes out. So I don't know if that is good or bad. It's just an observation I had about kind of all these EV crossovers that are coming out. Really, the I-Pace is kind of like that too. But anyway, just a thought. The Uniden R7 to avoid tickets. I'm guessing that's a radar detector. I don't think my wife would let me go fast enough to need that. Yeah, that Performance Model Y is very fast. I think ours does... I can't remember what the stats are. 4.8, or it might even be higher than that. It's still plenty fast for a family vehicle, and I could pay the $2,000 for the acceleration boost. I'm still working on talking myself out of that because it's $2,000 I don't need to spend. And so it is. It's plenty fast, but we'll see. If people complain that it's too slow when we get back to doing car shows and test drives, then I'll have to spring for it, but we'll see. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Speed is fun. Of course, safety is fun too. Speed done safely is fun. Not dying is fun. Feeling a little bit like you're going to, but not. That's probably the most fun, but that's a fine line. And I wouldn't encourage anyone to go exploring that. My disclaimer: if you get into trouble, it's on your own head. I'm not encouraging any of this. Yeah, the only Electrify America station in Minnesota is Woodbury. Yeah, they got to do slow charging right now, which is really unfortunate. It took a while for... Really, last year was when... Well, the last 2 years, I guess, but that's really when Tesla started building out Minnesota nicely. I guess they were already ahead of where Electrify America is now, but I would really like to see more options for those owners, because not everyone's going to want to buy a Tesla. I talked to my dad. I've given him rides, and he's like, yeah, it's cool. He'll never buy a Tesla. I know that. But he had Mustangs before he was saddled with us kids. And he might drive a Mustang. If he test drove it and was like, yeah, this is for me, that might be the vehicle that would get him to switch to an EV. But like you said, the charging has to be there, and that's really, really important. I had another thought as I was thinking about the range difference between the S and the Model Y, is that the extra range lets you skip chargers, potentially, but like when I went to Iowa to do the range test, I stopped in Dow's not because I was out of range at Dow's. I still had 20, I can't remember, it was 20 or 40 miles left. I can't remember what it was when I got there. But I couldn't get to the next one, at least not at the speed I was driving and in the temperatures and weather conditions I was getting. So really an EV's range is kind of what the EPA rating is, but it's more about how frequently are there chargers. And if there are 3 chargers in a line and I can skip to the third one, that's awesome. But if there's only if there's only one in between and I can't make it to that next one, it doesn't matter how close but not there I can get. It only matters that I get to this one, charge fast, and then get to the next one. So, yeah, more Electrify America chargers would be great for those other owners. And if the supercharger network opens up, more Electrify America chargers is great because it keeps that, keeps fewer people using superchargers and more using Electrify America chargers. But really, it is that it's how frequent are the chargers and where do you need to stop so you can get as close to zero as you can or whatever you're comfortable with. I've become more and more comfortable getting close to zero. But it's how close to zero can you get to a charger and then fast charge and get on the move is more important than, within reason, how many miles you get, full capacity of the vehicle. Now, obviously, it's that starting trip, that's different. But, if I had a lower range car where I had to leave Burnsville, stop in Albert Lee, which is the next supercharger south, and then stop in Dow's, and then stop in Sioux City, or not Sioux City, Des Moines. That would get pretty frustrating if I had to hit every single one. And having a big range means at least you can skip one or a couple of your first ones throughout the day. So, when I'm doing a trip like that, I leave the house with 100% or as close to it as I can. And then you do have the option of skipping. Or like if I'm headed to North Dakota, I can skip Clearwater and go right to Alexandria and skip all the metro ones. But it's charging infrastructure is huge, and I hope that new infrastructure proposal goes through and that really gets built out. And it kind of brings up another element of questions people have or concerns people have of, why is the government, or like, why is my town, I see this on articles all the time where like a town will say, all right, we put in, 4 charge point stations in our downtown area. And invariably the questions are always like, well, why is the city doing this? Why are we paying? And who would want to charge for, sit there for 8 hours and charge? And people don't realize there's, different levels of charging. And having a level 2 charger at a theater or at a park or at a nature preserve is just good infrastructure. And people are paying for that electricity. In most cases, like the ones here in Burnsville, you're paying for the electricity. Now, is Burnsville, making a ton of money on that? Probably not. But, I think there's a lot of perception that it's just these free handouts to EV people, or, why do they get the prime parking spots at Hy-Vee and places like that? Well, because in that case, it's cheaper for Hy-Vee to run power from the building that has power to a nearby spot than it is to run it all the way across, to the edge of their parking lot. Now, when you're doing like a supercharger install, that makes sense because you want that distance, or you end up with a situation like there is in Sioux Falls where it's constantly being iced. But, when a place like Hy-Vee is hosting that, it's like, well, why should they burden themselves with extra expense running cable out further into the boondocks? It doesn't make a lick of sense. So, there's just a lot of easy. It's like I say, everyone's an expert. Everybody's got well, why is it this way? And if you stop to think about it for a couple minutes, or do some research, or ask people in a friendly way, there are generally answers to things that make sense when you dig into them. But of course, I'm not that much of an expert either. Let me catch up here with the chat a little bit. Yeah, the Chatamo adapter, I had that issue in North Dakota, and I'm a little gun shy on it. I know there are people who use them all the time, but I got to get back on that horse and go to a nearby charger and test it out again. Yeah, the Electrify America charging for time that's murderous. Especially, I was watching something on the Mach-E, and it slows down so much after 80%, and you're paying for time, and you're barely getting. I think whoever it was getting like 12 kilowatts or 13 kilowatts coming out. It's like they were going to be there for another hour paying for time, slow charging. So yeah, they got to work on the pricing structure, and Ford's got to work on that charging curve. There's a lot to be improved there. I don't have any insight on when the CCS adapter for North America will be available. I wonder if that will be announced on the Q1 call later this month. Because if it was leaked that other brands might be able to use the supercharger network, and if that's the case, then they're going to need some kind of adapter backwards. So it can go Tesla port to CCS. I would guess if you're making that, it's probably easy to turn everything around. Easy is again, easy for someone who knows nothing about it. Must be easy. But I would guess they would kind of do that at the same time. So, sure, we're welcoming you. If you have the app and you buy our adapter, we'll welcome you onto the supercharger network. And for Tesla owners, so you have more flexibility, you can buy the CCS to Tesla adapter. Sorry, it's very dry in here. Yeah, there's the aftermarket CCS adapter from China that's about $900. It might even be more now. I can't remember if that was like the 900 was the introductory price and then it was going to go to over 1,000. I think Brandon Flash has that, and I think he's had success using it. It may have taken a firmware update or something, but I think he's had a chance to use that, and it's worked. But $900, I'd just stick to the supercharger network for that much. I might be cheap now that I'm saying how I won't pay for the different things. Doing a little self-reflection here on a Saturday night. No, that people have got that to work in the U.S. and I think there was an issue on some chargers or some networks, but they were able to do a firmware update. I think there's a USB-C port on the bottom of the adapter, and I think Brandon's got it working on his Brandon Flash, the EV Nomads YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. I think he's got videos on it. Yeah, I think icing is going to be a problem at Hy-Vees and superchargers and everywhere. I think it's actually, and probably Electrify Americas, I think it's going to be bad for the next couple of years as people stamp their feet and shake their fists of like, we don't want EVs around here. And then the more butts and seats, more people get used to the idea and experience them for the first time, and kind of wrap their head around, like, you wouldn't park, like if I parked my Tesla in, if I went to Holiday and parked at a gas pump, I would guess after about, when it's busy, after about 5 minutes or less, I'm going to have people really complaining unless I'm filling up a gas can for a mower or something. So hopefully, I think it's going to be a rough couple of years as people get used to this. But then hopefully, people kind of chill out and realize it's just, like a gas station. Only less smelly. Do we know? Tesla Club in Minnesota is trying to get fines for ICE cars that park in charging spots. In Colorado, it's a $100 fine. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard people talk about that in the Minnesota group. I don't know if it's gone anywhere or if it's just kind of been talk or acknowledgement of the Colorado rule. But it'll be interesting. There are so many bills. There's the Clean Cars Minnesota thing, and then there's another thing that's actually sponsored by the dealerships too, of trying to get Minnesota tax incentives, or I can't remember if it's incentives or rebates. But that's the route the dealerships want, is like, because they see this freight train from their manufacturers of, we're going to start sending you Mach-E's, we're going to start sending you I-Paces, we're going to start sending I-Pace-I? I'm not sure the plural on that. But anyway, the Silverado, the Kia, the dealerships are going to start getting this stuff. And, if they're concerned about moving it, they're thinking, well, let's give some rebates, or let's pressure the government rather than than the government setting the targets. We want the government to give the consumers cash on the hood so we don't have to, is basically how the dealers are looking at it. So it'll be interesting to see if that passes. I don't know. It'd be great to get some kind of fine, or at least an ability to tow people who are being super obnoxious. I don't know if there's the political appetite to get that done anytime soon in Minnesota. And part of me thinks, again, we're going to have to see how bad it gets. If every place starts, turning out to be like Sioux Falls, then something's going to have to be done. But I kind of think to some degree there still is an ignorance out there that people don't know what they are. And a major fine and an instant tow might not be the greatest help to warming people to the idea of EVs. I don't know that it's, like I said, there's got to be some limits. But I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how we thread this needle, and it'd be interesting. I think Colorado's law went into effect in the fall of last year, so it'd be interesting to reach out to someone who's there and get some information on, like, how often is this happening? Are you towing people often? Are you fining people often? Or was that a deterrent enough that it's not happening anymore? I'd be really interested to know how that's working out. April 26th for the Q1 call. I know it's a Monday. I can't remember. I don't have my calendar pulled up here. Yeah, I think it is the 26th then. For some reason, I had the 21st in my head, but I think it's the 26th because it is a Monday. And I think the next day is the day the Crew Dragon takes the next batch of astronauts up. And so some people were speculating that might be why they moved it to the 26th, so Elon could focus on it, maybe. I'm not sure. It seems like they'd rather have it on the 28th. I guess they've usually done it on a Wednesday. And you would think, once the astronauts are up there, then you can worry about Tesla stuff again, but who knows what his schedule is like day to day, or what he's got going on, or if it is even involving that. Maybe it's monkeys playing video games day on Wednesday. Who knows? If you guys haven't seen the Neuralink video of that they posted maybe 2 days ago now, of the monkey using his mind to play Pong, definitely go check that out. It will weird you out. Yeah, so there's the $70 vehicle road tax, and that's another bill that's in front of the legislature. They're trying to raise that to, I think, 225 or something preposterous like that. I could go on for another hour and a half just on that, but I won't. I'll save you that. It's way, way over the top, and it basically treats every vehicle, every EV the same, which the $70 does too, or $75, whatever it is. But the 70, 75, you can just kind of grin and bear it. The 225 or whatever they're proposing is ridiculous, and it basically says if you drive a a Leaf that gets 50 miles of range, or a Tesla Model S that gets over 400 miles of range, you guys should pay the same. And it's like a gas tax on a Yaris and an Escalade. Like, that just doesn't, like, you would never do that with gas tax. It shows a real lack of imagination by the people who are proposing this, and that's about as nice a way as I can put it. Yeah, so Sioux Falls that kind of always gets brought up because it's on the supercharger's on the side of a Hy-Vee, and it's right by the liquor store entrance. I believe it's the liquor store entrance. And so everybody parks there to just pop into the liquor store. And so usually there are 1 or 2 spots open for a Tesla to park, and the rest are just trucks or SUVs or just gas cars. And it's super frustrating. And I came very close to getting in a physical altercation with someone there, just because they were being extremely rude about it. And it kind of, like, I was on a road trip coming home feeling so good about this electric road trip and how great it had been, and then that happened, and I was like stewing about that guy the whole way home. I was like, he soiled my whole road trip. So they're in too close of proximity to a popular entrance. It's basically, you come into the parking lot and then take a right, and that's where the superchargers are. Very handy for Tesla owners. But you also take a right, and then in that parking lot, then the liquor store entrance is right there. And here's these 8 beautiful parking spots that everybody wants to use because they'll just be in there for a minute. What could it hurt? These things are never used anyway. So, yeah, it's frustrating. I avoid that spot at all costs from now on. Yeah, I don't know if the government can prove that, Terry. I don't know how much of it goes to the different things. It's one of those topics I would love to dig into and just go way in the weeds of where is this money coming from, where is it going, how much of it goes where, how much of it is federal, how much of it is state. And I just haven't had time. And every time I think I have time, something happens, like a bathroom leak that causes me to drop everything for a week and pull wet drywall out, things like that. So it's on the list, but it's down on the long-term list of things I want to get into. But it would be really interesting to, and really that's what Brian and Destiny in the North Dakota Tesla owners group did when North Dakota was raising their prices. They were able to go to the legislature with all of the documentation, gave their testimony, and then they brought someone in from the transportation department who basically confirmed everything they said. And so it was a great, affirmation of, look, these people aren't just looking for a free handout. They just want what's fair. Because I think all of us want good roads, good bridges, and we're willing to pay for it. But it's a little tough to overpay when, maybe others aren't paying their fair share. And I'm sure that's how gas vehicle owners are probably feeling that way about EVs. So, there's kind of a butting of the heads, and I think that's where clarity on the data would really be useful, and really having some way of charging by mileage, even if you don't drive all your miles in your state. If every state did that, it would probably wash out pretty well, and you could have something that's pretty equitable. But I'm not a policy expert. I'm not an expert on anything. Yeah, I think some people do realize that we pay tax on the electricity, but they're saying that doesn't go to roads and bridges. And then you hear the EVs are heavier than other vehicles, so there is part of that. But EVs also aren't having tanker trucks drive their heavy butts down the road to fuel them up every week. Even coal power plants, those are running on rail. Coal runs on rail. It doesn't, nobody's trucking coal. That sounds like a cool 70s movie. Trucking coal. Like a bad version of Smokey and the Bandit. We got to get this coal to Arkansas. Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping we can do more meetups in the future. That would be fantastic. Hopefully as the weather gets nicer, we can do some outdoor stuff. And then once COVID is finally over, or everybody's vaccinated, we can do in-person, fun events again. So, but I just realized it is 11:17 already, and I know it's riveting hearing me talk. But I'm pretty much through the topics I wanted to cover, and I appreciate all the comments in the chat and the different conversations that have been going on here. So I appreciate that. Like I said earlier in the live stream, unless the internet's really good in the cabin we're staying at next week, I probably won't do a live stream next week. Yeah, I can't see how that's going to work out. So, but we will be on that road trip. And like I said, if there's something you want me to test with the car, with charging, if you want to see how many stuffed animals I can fit in the frunk with my daughter, I can test those different things. See how many snow cones I can make out of the frunk. I'm not making snow cones this weekend. But again, let me know. And if you think of something later, come back in the comments. I do try to respond to comments as I can, if I see them and get the notifications and things. So that's going to be it for tonight. If you want to jump over to some of the Yuri's Night coverage, Yuri Gagarin, first human in space. It's kind of the big celebration. This is the anniversary. And so there's a lot of YouTube, space YouTube channels streaming stuff about that. So if you want to hop over there, or if you're wondering about what the paddling thing we were talking about, if Tom can drop that link in the chat, you can check out the fantastic rendition of Lady in Red that was done right over in Wisconsin. So, but I really appreciate everybody coming in, and again, doing the chat thing, and we'll talk again. And the video tomorrow, again, is going to be some Model Y basics, really focusing on some of the things on the stat sheet that you get with the car, and then looking at, taking a tape measure around and measuring how big is this opening, how big is that, the back under trunk, things like that. Might not be up till later in the day because I'm going to try to add some graphics and things so you don't have to try and read my tape measure through the video. But hopefully that's helpful to people shopping or looking at their next EV. But thanks again. I'm going to sign off here. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.